What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Okay, so we have a couple of things to go through. The first one was an interview that I saw yesterday of Megyn Kelly with Mr. Walter Kirn. Walter Norris Kirn is an American novelist, literary critic, and essayist. He is one of the people who apparently, out of media, because he has a very large following, he's been talking to David Grusch in a more personal capacity as a friend. The very first time I realized that this was probably true was when he was in an interview with Matt Taibbi from the Twitter Files. This is the interview that he was a part of, and this is what he said back then. This was last year, I believe.
High-level UFO whistleblower last year. And I said to him, who among all the people in society is keeping this secret? Who sits atop the pyramid of classified information about UFOs? And I thought he was going to say something strange, like the Grand Mason of the Scottish Rite Lodge, or Prince Charles, or the Mossad. But he said, Dick Cheney.
That's Walter Kirn saying that Grusch told him Dick Cheney was at the very top of the food chain of the secret keepers. Somebody who actually just passed away, Dick Cheney. But yesterday he was on that interview with Megyn Kelly, and she decided to ask him about UFOs. And Walter Kirn is not just looking into David Grusch when it comes to UFOs. When the Dan Sherman interview with Jesse Michaels came out, Walter Kirn said that he had information about this and that it was true, that he had been researching this. And I don't know if he's going to probably come out with something because he's a writer. He has a lot of journalistic traits besides being an author. He's an excellent columnist as well. There are many who criticize him for his political views, but as I told you before, my mother taught me that the best way to get to know someone is by knowing them personally, and that you can't let what other people tell you about folks detract you from getting to know them, because you never know. And that's the way I feel about everybody until I get to know them. I give anybody the benefit of the doubt. But if when they're interacting with me, they're total assholes, that's when I either call them out or just stay away from them. But with Mr. Kirn, I don't have the luxury yet. I don't know the gentleman. All I know is what he's been saying as a public figure. And he's a person with a lot of following, talking about the topic, talking about David Grusch, talking about Project Preserve Destiny. Hearing him talk about this, Project Preserve Destiny, it's actually something that made me tweet the following alongside that interview with Megyn Kelly. So this is what I wrote. I said, after watching this clip, I am now thinking Walter Kirn may have been involved in the L'Espresso article that discussed Trump being briefed about Project Preserve Destiny. Can you confirm? But the plan is laid out for everybody. I even got more clues as Jay Stratton pushed for this to happen last night at the Age of Disclosure Q&A in Los Angeles. I got some good audio explaining the possible strategy right here. And that's a video that I did yesterday. I got audio from the Age of Disclosure Q&A where Jay Stratton and Dan Farah and even strategist Brett Federson spoke about this. Federson even spoke about this term, the Disclosure Task Force, which is, I believe, something that they're going to try and propose to Trump, that he has to put out as soon as he says something publicly. He's going to put out what they're calling now the Disclosure Task Force. I don't know who's going to be there, but that's part of the plan of what's going to happen. And I know a little more. So when I asked about this strategy, I was under the impression that they had a plan for both scenarios, because this plan has been ongoing for the last couple of years. The scenarios that I thought were going on was they had a plan in case Kamala won for making her the disclosure president, and that they had a plan in case Trump won for making him the disclosure president. But I got to know now that that was not the case. They had a plan for Trump to be the disclosure president, but they were going to stand down if Kamala won the election. And that will instantly make some people jump, saying that this is political. The way I see it is that they were lining up people from the cabinet to be UFO friendly in order for this to work. And that's exactly what happened. I don't know how the lobbying was for all of this, but they made it happen. And that's why they're moving forward with the plan. Democrats actually, historically, in the past 20 years, I think only people like Obama and probably Hillary Clinton were on board with the UFOs. I know that Senator Chuck Schumer is part of the one of the most historic bills ever, and he's also a Democrat. So it is a bipartisan issue. But when it comes to the cabinet, the people who were in power back then, alongside Joe Biden, there was Kamala Harris. There wasn't really a good feeling between the people organizing this disclosure precedent plan and the people that were at the White House at the time. Notoriously, that White House was very silent when it came to UFOs. They only like limited themselves to say, yeah, there's objects that we can't explain, blah, 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 but nothing really happened. I don't know if you guys noticed. The only stuff that happened with Democrats involved was the UAP caucus and all the movement within Congress. But and on the cabinet level, there wasn't. And now that Trump is the president, the plan is ongoing. We're kind of reaching the crescendo of this plan, I think. And a good sign of that is Walter Kirn saying the following to Megyn Kelly. And I think what he's saying right here is very powerful, in my opinion. Regardless of what you think about political bias, please leave that out the door in order to understand what's going on here. They're trying this, they really are. Some of these people really believe that Trump is going to disclose. I don't know what to believe. I'm just reporting on this, but I want you guys to be aware of it and tell me what you feel. How would you feel if Trump really was that guy? Here's Walter Kirn.
Dave Grusch is a friend of mine, and he's a source, and I've known him for 3 years. I was texting him in the green room. I said, what can I tell Megyn's audience? He said, the problem with the aliens is that we care a lot about them, but they don't care a lot about us. In other words, we're still exploring this universe. The gorilla was only discovered in the middle of the 19th century. It was a mythical being that they finally discovered in the jungle. They found bodies and so on. I'm convinced, and I hate to tell you this, that Dave is telling the truth, and that against great pressure and great mockery, he's trying to describe our actual world to us. It's a world in which we have not made all the discoveries yet. Now, he often compares them to mountain lions. He says, do you believe in mountain lions? Everybody would say yes, right? How many of you have actually seen one?
I have seen one.
You've seen one?
In Montana.
Okay, well.
Yep. Ugly.
I am convinced that this isn't a psyop, that this isn't what conspiracy theorists call Project Blue Beam, an attempt to dazzle us all with a false god that will bring us all under, slavery of some sort of world government. I think that very rarely, but somewhat commonly over the years, going back through human history, we have been visited by beings of other types. It's a big universe, one we barely understand. We're very young. We're going to learn about, I can promise you this, we're going to learn more about this. And in the same interview, he tells you that Donald Trump knows a lot about it. That's my information too. If you know anything about Donald Trump, he will not avoid bragging about what he knows before he. So I expect him to be the president who tells us what we haven't heard.
So what, can you just outline it for us more clearly? What exactly is he telling you they've seen?
They've recovered craft that have crashed. Some of those craft have fought each other. In other words, people say, how could they crash? They come across the universe. Well, we're not so sure they'd come all that far, frankly. We're not so sure they don't have places nearby to come visit. They're a little bit like gardeners from the descriptions of the people I've had as sources.
They check on the garden every once in a while, but they have their own business. They have their own family fights. They have their own voyages. Now, what he's talking about are actual bodies on the ground. I imagine there's going to be a day where you're going to sit down in front of your television and people who you trust, scientists, politicians, ones who don't necessarily agree with each other on everything, but do agree on something like the truth, will bring forward the evidence. You will be convinced. It will not rock your world if you're a religious person. You can handle it. If you've read the Bible, there are all sorts of creatures in there who aren't explained. If you believe that these are a demonic presence, I don't think they are any more than certain animals are. But, there was a time when we thought we were alone in the universe almost as a planet, that the sun revolved around us and so on. We survived the revelation that it was the other way around. We'll survive this. It'll be interesting. Kids will be more interested in science. I think our universe will light up for us again. They've kept it to themselves for, I think, obvious reasons. And I spoke to someone just recently. I said, how should they first disclose this? And he said, they should take the craft that they've reverse engineered that have capacities that you and I don't know about and fly them over Phoenix. And in fact, that happened because the Phoenix Lights is one of the great UFO scares of all time, if you know about it. So I predict that's going to happen, and I don't think it's going to be all that long. And I think after all the movies and all the pop culture, we're not going to be all that shocked by it. I think we'll integrate it, and it's not going to destroy our civilization to find out.
I have an idea.
That's really optimistic, in my opinion. I applaud him for being so optimistic about it. I don't know if I would agree with a lot of what he said, but man, I sure hope it does work out that way. But because the way it seems right now, and putting all the cards on the table, as they say, all the implications, all the different programs, because it's not just one legacy program. There's multiple programs that are considered also legacy, but it's not just the one, There's one thing that I keep reminding myself of when I spoke to John Ramirez, which is that he said that there are like nearly 20 different intelligence agencies working right now in the United States, and they all have their own agendas. And if those intelligence agencies got a piece of the pie, so to speak, or a piece of the puzzle, they work on that piece of the puzzle in a compartmentalized fashion. And the other intelligence agencies have no idea of a lot of what these others do. That's why Preserved Destiny is so obscure to many, because that's just the NSA. And I just don't know if it's going to be all that easy to surpass, easy to withstand a revelation like that. I don't know if the economy would be okay with that. I was talking about this a little earlier with people I trust, asking them if they think that keeping the current capitalist model and the current materialistic model in the context of disclosure would work. None of them said yes. There would inevitably be some kind of really strong reaction to that in terms of the economy. I am one of those who thinks that, yeah, we need a different model. But the people in charge right now don't see it that way. They think that the economy can even benefit from a lot of this without thinking about the side effects that just telling the truth can cause, which are many. But I don't know what you guys think about this one. What do you think about Walter Kirn? He knows a lot about Preserved Destiny as well. I'm trying to reach out to him, see if he would maybe talk to me, but it's hard, especially with people who have so much following. They have a lot to do. They're very busy. I don't know if I will be able to pull it off, but send good vibes, see if something happens. I do have a little bit of news for you. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a podcast with my buddy, Chad, from UFOs, the YouTube channel. He has a really wonderful interview with Dr. Gary Nolan, and we're going to record something tomorrow. I don't know when it's going to drop, but I'm going to be on the show. I just wanted to let you guys know. And yeah, let me know what you think about this. What do you think about Walter Kirn's prediction of how disclosure is going to go? He seems also convinced that President Donald Trump is going to be the one who discloses. Let's add that other name to the list. I got another one for you in the next video that is more predictable than this one, but Kirn, as I told you, has a massive following. He's got a large presence. He's got a strong voice. And let's see how much influence he can get into this. I still think that the best choice we got is for Rogan to just tell Trump, you got to disclose, man. And Trump would, I think, listen to Rogan. Let's hope he does it, though. I'll be reading every comment you guys leave me. Thank you. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, hype, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That's all you need to do in order to help us, and it is what helps us the most. So thank you. But if you want to support us in other ways, there's a few links down there you can choose from. You can become a member on YouTube, or you can support us through KGRA. Anything you choose to do is always appreciated, so thank you. That's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive like Walter Kirn. Always. Bye.